Welcome back to another episode of Kate and Isaiah Living Large. I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Kate.
And on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health that goes along with the physical health that we have and just kind of the correlations that we sort of see with each other and our struggles with that kind of thing. But before we get into that, obviously, we need to talk about life updates. What's new? What's the haps? Got anything you want to talk about?
Well, no, but... But by the time this episode airs, I will have had my stand-up comedy debut. So I will assume that it has gone very well and that everybody laughed.
And you are like signed up for Just for Laughs.
Yeah, I'll sign the contract on my Netflix special.
Netflix special. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I just assume that's going to be what happens after my 5 minutes at no jokes barred. But, you know.
That's super fun. I've been to some No Jokes Barred. I really enjoy those. I like the comics that go there. I know Matt, my buddy Matt, usually does some. Arf does some. He's always super funny to watch. So I'm probably gonna try and make it out for that one. I know when this airs, it'll
already have happened.
So I will or will not have been there, and this is the Schrodinger's cat of did I go or not?
Right. And you know what? Well, you will know because we'll talk about it in the following episode.
That's true.
Because I'm sure that I'll be riding that high or low as long as it takes. Oh my God, nobody laughed. It was horrible. I fell on my face. Nobody likes me and I don't have any friends anymore. That'll be how it goes. Or I'm famous. There's only two options. There's going to be no middle ground.
Except for the Netflix special. When are you recording your Netflix special?
Well, I'm going to record it at the Imperial Theater in St. John, New Brunswick.
Oh, perfect.
Book it now. November 2024.
Who's opening for you?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
Michelle Lynn Petite is opening for me.
Oh, perfect. Oh, goodness. Good times. I am super excited that, we have our buy coffee up for those of you who didn't listen last week, or those of you who just need a little reminder. I know, again, no pressure. But we do have our buy me a coffee up, trying to raise some money to get that lovely mic, so we can have special guests on again.
Like Mike.
Everyone wants to be like Mike. To have our special guests on and our audio quality be supreme. As well as, again, if you're feeling super, super generous, our Amazon wish list is also in our link tree. So if you're looking at maybe you want to get something else, there's always stuff there as well.
But no pressure.
No pressure. Again,
this is just for the quality enjoyment of the podcast. But we are, fine with whatever. Yes. Like, it's good.
Even just liking and subscribing to YouTube goes a long way. So.
Share it on social media when it comes out. Like, I'll judge you more if you don't do that.
But I think we should just jump right into it. So let's talk a little bit about mental health. So you're the one that really wanted to talk about this topic. So get us started. What's going on? So
I teased this at the end of the last episode about my experience at Area 506, which overall we talked about how terrific the festival is, how terrific the festival is run, despite Isaiah thinking that there should be another 10. I'm just kidding. But while I was there, an interesting thing happened to me. The first night was fine. Second night, I wasn't drinking. I had a Red Bull, which is not common for me, but I am a caffeine drinker. Like, I drink a couple coffees a day or whatever. But I felt really kind of overwhelmed and overstimulated. And before, like, midway through the second last act of the night, maybe even before that, I started to feel a full panic feeling. And I was there with a really dear friend of mine, Jocelyn, who she had traveled from Halifax to buy the tickets, and I didn't want to hamper her enjoyment in any way. And we had already decided that we weren't staying for Billy Talent. So as soon as that set was over, I knew we could leave. And it was getting busier and busier, and the crowd started crowding around me. And I was but I had lots of space. Like, there was no reason for it. And I got so overwhelmed, and like, I was getting kind of almost short of breath, but I didn't want to let her know because I was worried that I would bother her. Not that I would bother her. I knew I wouldn't bother her, but I didn't want to hamper her enjoyment anyway, until she looked up at me. She's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm having a panic attack." She's like, "Buddy, let's go." Like, it's fine. Let's get out of here. And I am trying to assess like why that happened. And I have a couple of theories. One, I think I think a lot of people are feeling different post pandemic because we went a couple of years where we really got used to having lots of space. The second thing is it was very loud, and this is again not a complaint. I went to a festival. You expect loud music. This isn't anybody should have done anything differently. This is my own experience with that and what that means to me. And it really, I found it troubling that happened for a couple of reasons. One, it's never fun to have like a panic attack.
No.
Anybody who's experienced that can tell you that is not a great time. Two, it made me question like kind of who I was, because going to festivals and doing this kind of thing has been my thing for a long time.
Yeah. And
so, so that was one thing that kind of spurred this issue. The second part of that is like, because personally, man, I'm on a monologue here. Sorry, Isaiah.
No,
because I'm taking better care of myself physically, as Yoda, apparently, I find that I'm able to better bounce back from a mental health issue than I would have been 1 year ago or 2 years ago or whatnot. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today.
So first thing I will say is, so I've done therapy before, and my therapist would say, if they are your friend, they're not going to be burdened by you.
No,
that has always been my issue. When that's my therapist says, you're not a burden to people. People pleasers. We are both clearly people pleasers.
Yeah.
And people pleasers tend to feel like they don't want to be burdens on other people, and so we tend to hold our emotions to ourselves, and they come out in weird and crazy ways.
Yep.
So have you ever had a panic attack before? Like, is this something you've had happened, or?
I've had 2 that I can recall, and they were years and years and years ago.
Okay.
Like more than a decade ago.
Yeah. So
not a common thing for me.
Is this your first big festival since COVID?
Sort of. This was the first big festival that I didn't have anything to do with. I went to Dooryard last month, but Dooryard is a little bit smaller than 506, but similar setup. 10, like the whole thing is a similar setup. But I had a role there,
right? And
the other thing that I noticed too is the first night I had no issue. I was drinking. I was not drinking night 2, and I was not drinking night 3. And at Dooryard, I was generally drinking. So a part of me started to question, at any of these kinds of events, I would have been drinking at them if the alcohol was what subdued me enough to kind of self-medicate through any kind of panic that I might have had even in the past. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
No, I totally get what you're saying. It definitely, I've definitely gone through some mental health things throughout COVID too. I'm the opposite though. Like we talked about this in the last one, right? Yeah. I am very much a want to be around people, and COVID really affected me negatively because I had a hard time being cooped up and inside. And I think a lot of people went through that,
right?
That kind of sense of what's going on. And I think that's kind of what's going on in general right now too, is that people are now trying to discover who they are post pandemic. I know we're like kind of like what, a year out, 2 years out now since
one year since they've released all the, maybe 2. Was it
last year was our first like non-COVID Area 506?
Yeah.
So I think we're probably close to 2 years. So I think a lot of people now are just really discovering who they are outside of what the pandemic has brought to them.
Right.
Because last year I feel like everyone just really was, it's kind of over, even though it's not actually over.
No.
But everyone felt like last year it's over and just wanted to do things. And I think this year is more of a now trying to discover who you actually are.
Yeah. Last year, just at any event, people were lapping up, even if there were events that they wouldn't have gotten a lot of traction before. People just wanted to be out so badly. Even people who were introverted in some cases wanted to be out more. And it was just like, oh, we can see people and touch people, and like, it's great. Whereas this is, now we're kind of a year into the normalization of a post-COVID, not that COVID is over, we're not arguing that, but in a post-COVID world, post-COVID restriction world, that there is a lot of like, who was I before? What did I learn positively and negatively from being cooped up, to use your terminology, Isaiah? Because for me, that actually set me on a new track. I mean, I went through some bad stuff too, but like, I was talking to a friend earlier today about the kind of machine I was on, a hamster wheel, for lack of a better term. Pre-pandemic, I was living an intense life in that I was going to the gym every morning at 6:15 because I was on a good path that way. But I was also staying at the bar every night till close.
Yes.
And working full time and then doing activities and doing all of the things that I do today. But with the addition of a lot of alcohol.
Yep.
And a lot of late nights, which I've all but replaced for the most part through the week. I don't have those late nights anymore. It doesn't hurt me that Big Tide is closed now at 10 p.m. So when my activities are ending at 9 or 9:30, I'm not rushing there to spend another 2 or 3 hours at the bar.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And I think that me too. Like, well, actually, I was having a conversation with I used to do cosplay. I still kind of want to do cosplay, but the cosplay world of everyone is also kind of changed, that whole community that I used to hang out with, because just like festivals, the cons were kind of limited and kind of downgraded, and so the community has changed a lot, and there's a lot of people that are just struggling now to try and find their place back in the community and whether they even want to jump back into it and not. So that's definitely, and I think that all leads into like our mentality has kind of changed, and so I think that's a huge part of that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Now, to loop this into our podcast generalized topic, and I kind of mentioned this off the top too, what I do say is I had that rough patch last weekend. And I went to the gym on Monday, and I went to the gym. No, I didn't go to the gym on Monday. It was a holiday. And I went to the gym the next day I could. Then I went to the gym again, and then I went to the gym again. And, I was cautious in what I was eating. And I had another little mental health setback a little later in the week, unrelated. But I was much more able to recoup and not dwell and kind of heal from that. I think because, one, I'm getting out some adrenaline, working out and that physical, all those endorphins are playing a happiness fun role as they should, but also I'm just much more confident.
Yeah, I think, well, that definitely, like, there's definitely confidence, right? Like, in that you're getting in shape and stuff. And then you're right, like the endorphins of going out and even just like getting some of that anxiety out in a physical form instead of sitting around and stewing in it definitely is helpful. And then there's something to be said about physical health in general affecting your mental health, right?
Yeah,
it's a huge thing. Have you? You can choose to say this or not. Have you ever spoken to a therapist?
Oh, yes.
Therapy? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I had my first bout of therapy in university because I had to go to the counselor at school because I was late withdrawing from a course that I was failing, and I was going to get an F if I didn't get some sort of mental health note to get me out of it. So that ended up being a blessing in disguise, because when I think I was in third year, and I ended up being diagnosed with depression, and they put me on Prozac at the time. And then and first couple counselors I went to through school were not great for me, because finding a good counselor, finding a good psychologist is about fit. And I know they're few and far between. And once you get one, you feel like, oh, I've got to hold on to this for dear life because there's no one else. But for me, I have to have the right fit. And so this guy ended up guest instructing one of my health psychology class that year. And I just loved the way he spoke in his kind of real talk kind of way. And I looked him up, and I ended up going to him for 10 sessions when I was like, 19 or 20 or something like that. And it helped me unlock a lot of stuff in myself. And like, it went a long way. And so I had been diagnosed with depression. So I did some cognitive behavioral therapy related to that. And then also discovered like how low my self-esteem had been because of being bullied in school and things like that.
No.
And then also my weight and all those things that kind of pile on. And then had a couple of bouts since. I haven't been on medication since. Not that there's a problem with it. I'd go back on medication in a heartbeat if I thought I've
Yeah.
when I do need it again, I'll go on it again. There's no shame in that. But I most recently I went to therapy to deal with a situation in my home life. I ended up in a relationship that was abusive over the pandemic. I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast.
No, we haven't.
yet. So that was a thing that happened to me, and made me question a lot of things. And I started going to therapy through that time because the mental and physical abuse, and helped a lot. And then it also helped when I was leaving that relationship to question, like, why did this happen to me? Not that it's my fault, but there are some core personality traits that allow someone like that into my life. And I think it goes back to what Isaiah said off the top of the episode, is that if you're a people pleaser and you care about people and you're an empath, you kind of let people walk over you a little bit.
Yeah.
And not to say that's the only thing that happened. He also has a lot of trouble, and he's a mentally unwell person who self-medicates with alcohol. And he's a person that I am concerned about, but have to have out of my life.
Right. No.
Wow, I didn't intend to talk about this.
Ooh, super deep.
And I hesitate to talk about this because he's a person that people know, and I won't name him or anything like that, but it was a very traumatic experience for me. And there's someday, if you ask me about it in person, I'll tell you some of the nitty gritty if you're interested. But essentially, like any woman or any man who goes through a relationship like that, you start to question a lot of things. So therapy helped a lot through that time. And then I'll have no issue going back to therapy again. I got to the end of probably 10 sessions, and I was like, I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, I did so I went through a therapist too while I was in through the pandemic, because like I said, I, as an extrovert, being stuck inside, definitely had a huge effect on my mental health, a whole lot of stuff. So I just eventually, like, I didn't feel like myself, so I eventually went and talked to a therapist, and I wasn't going to the gym at that time either, right? So there was no outside forces there either.
Right.
But I definitely highly recommend, like, even if you're just not feeling quite mentally, like, if there's something there, I highly recommend, even just for one session, talking to someone. It's nice to have a third party that is like, doesn't know you, doesn't know anyone else, and is just kind of like non-judgmental to tell you, what's up.
Somebody neutral who listens and then provides advice that is academic advice, like that's academically proven to be successful. Not a bad thing. And there's a lot of great therapists out there. I mean, there is a barrier for anybody who doesn't have benefits and things like that.
Yes, that's
and
important.
There are organizations that do help with that, but so we recognize that this is coming from a place of privilege because we both have employers that will finance that sort of thing.
Right,
so
right. No, it's definitely coming from a little bit of place of privilege here, but I don't highly recommend it. But yeah, no, I think mental health is definitely very much tied into physical health. We've talked about sort of like self-image before, right? And that has a huge part of just how you see yourself. Can very much affect your mental health, right? Like if you see yourself as unattractive or whatever, you're going to carry yourself a certain way, and that can definitely affect your mental health for sure.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but I know that the minute I start tackling my physical health in any way, my confidence level shifts overnight. My physical body hasn't changed a bit because I'm 1 week into this health plan. I'm working out. I'm walking around like I'm a millionaire, and like I'm hot as shit. But nothing has changed on the exterior.
No, but that's the confidence is a huge thing, right? And it definitely goes a long way with your mental health. I find I'm definitely more confident when I'm going to the gym, and I've talked about it before. I'm more confident when I cut my hair. I don't like the way my hair looks, and and I'm definitely sure everyone has that thing that they don't like about themselves, and if they could change it, they would definitely hope to change it.
And even in the context of recording this podcast that we record secrets. We record every 2 weeks, 2 episodes at a time. Oh. But I'm like, I've been looking at myself in the camera as we do this, so it looks like I'm looking at you. And I've been like, what is going on with this blonde patch here? Oh my God, my hair needs to get done. I look like a skunk. Like, what is going on?
I think you should dye it gray.
No,
Do like a big gray patch.
no.
Come on.
I think that's really cool that people do that and that people are embracing their gray, but I'm full gray. And I'm not ready to go there because
ready?
personally, I feel like it would age me at least a decade. And I'm single and I don't want to be aged a decade.
So going back to your panic attacks.
Yeah.
Let's loop back into. So when you were having those, like again, you didn't want to talk to your friend about it because you want her not to affect her time. So what do you have an idea of what really drove that? Is it that you were surrounded by people, or
What drove me having the discomfort, I think, had to do with the volume of the music, the umsa, and the just people were packing in around me a little bit. And they weren't. Like, nobody was invading my actual personal space, but it just felt uncomfortable. And I was like, it's too loud. It's too much. I can't do this. And I, in the moment, couldn't even come up with the words to be like, help, which is the word, just in case you're wondering. But it was when she engaged me with conversation that I was like, I'm not good. Not good. And she's like, let's go back there.
Yeah. Did you feel better once you got out of the crowd? Did that help, or did you?
It did a bit, but it wasn't until I had drove her. She was visiting from Halifax and staying with another friend of ours in Rothesay, and I was again sober, so it didn't fully dissipate until after I got to my car, drove her to Rothesay, and was 3/4 of the way back that my heart finally stopped pounding. It was bizarre. Like, it was, and it could have been related to the Red Bull caffeine too.
Yeah, I mean that it's highly possible. I mean, again, you talked about in similar situations before you'd been drinking, and this time you hadn't, so that might be an underlying thing as well.
Right.
The alcohol,
It's the old social lubricant.
Yeah, the old social lubricant. Yeah, that can definitely affect the way you interact with people too. So
Yeah.
I'll be interested next time you go to a festival to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know that I'll rush to spend hundreds of dollars on tickets for fear of this happening again. And again, this is no fault of the festival.
Oh, God,
the festival is terrific. Like, this is in no way am I saying this like going, your festival sucks, because it's not not at all the case.
No, it's fantastic. No, yeah, that'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm interested. That's for science.
Yeah, for science. For science, we'll do it. For science, Isaiah will somehow find a free ticket for me, because that's how Isaiah rolls.
For science. I don't even know what the next festival is. There's got to be one coming.
There's got to be one.
You know,
Harvest. If we get tickets for Harvest, that'd be cool. Harvest. Somebody want to give us tickets to Harvest?
Shout out Harvest. Maybe.
Well, science. You know,
for science, we
need to know. And a hotel room in Fredericton.
Yes, yeah. It's well, I mean, if we're gonna go as media guests, I think they also should put us up. We're asking for a whole lot here to
and we're mostly joking.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah, I think that we should wrap it up here.
Yeah.
You know, maybe someone would like to buy us a coffee. That would.
Yeah, if you do, if you don't, okay, no problem. But if you want to buy us a coffee so we can get a new microphone, so we can get more guests and have better sound quality when we have guests in, it'd be a better experience for you, the listener, better experience for Isaiah editing, and really no change for me.
But where can people find you on the internet?
People can find us at Kate and Isaiah Living Large on Facebook. They can find me at Caitlin Dean on Facebook, the Caitlin Dean on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Kate D or Kated on Instagram, and at Fat Caitlin on TikTok. I put a new TikTok up for the first time in ages, weeks ago. Now that you've heard this, hopefully I will have done another one before then. Maybe. And where can people find you, Isaiah?
Of course, I am at Maritime Brews on all the social medias.
And that's brews like beer, not brews like punch.
Yeah, brews as in Maritime Brews. We brew the beer. I'm sure I'll have like some more new stuff up at this point I've been kind of slacking on getting my TikToks up. It's been summer, so
Yeah.
I've been taking a hiatus, but gonna gotta get that back up. But
And don't forget to like, follow, and share on YouTube.
Yes, like, follow, share, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you get those notifications that we've posted. But until next week, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.